Today, I'm going to show you the best alternatives to Manus AI, which is a very powerful AI agent. But the biggest issues with Manus are that number one, most people don't have an invitation code yet. And number two, even when you do have an invitation code, it's quite limited because it's in beta, right? Which means that you run out of credits, you can only use it so many times, you can only create so many projects per day with it. And so today we're going to be looking at some of the best alternatives to Manus. And these are completely free, like autonomous AI agents that you can just go off and use the web, right? Now, we're going to be comparing several actually today, including Open Manus, Claude Coder, Convergence, and OWL, right? So OWL is this AI agent, which you can see right here. And basically inside here, you can just put in a question and then it will use the AI agent to go off Google stuff, search the web. Convergence AI is pretty powerful as well. And we'll be coming on to this too. This is like ChatGPT operator, but again, you don't pay for it on the free plan. And then also it can just go off and I can do all sorts of stuff, right? I can even do deep work as well if you ask it to. Another option is Claude Coder. So if you want to see an example of that, let me pull this up for you right here. So we have Open Manus and Claude Coder running over here. And Claude is another free coder that you can use. It can actually create some pretty cool stuff. I'll show you some of the stuff we created with it today. And additionally, we have Open Manus, right? It's actually a lot better when I started using the API directly with Open Manus, which I'll come on to in a minute, right? So if you use Claude inside Open Manus, it's a lot better than versus when you use like OpenAI and that sort of thing. So we'll be running through exactly how to use this, how it goes step by step, etc. And we'll also be coming on to like tutorials for each. So if you want to get started with Manus, obviously, once you've got an invitation code, you can go in here and you can ask it to do stuff. One of the other biggest issues though, however, is that if you, for example, create an app, so for example, here I wanted to create like an AI SEO content writer. When I use Manus to do this, it's actually using Manus Computer. And the problem with Manus Computer rather than Manus.space is it will host an app, right? And then when I log in next time, that's not hosted on like a permanent subdomain. It means that basically any apps I create won't be running next time I go off to use them unless I host them on my own private custom domain. Also, you can see here it's quite buggy, right? So like I can scroll down and there's all this open space. Manus is not perfect. It creates some mind-blowing stuff, but it's not perfect. Whereas if we compare it to, say, something like OWL, we'll say here, for example, like create an SEO cost calculator in HTML. We'll run that terminal request right here. And you can see this is processing now. So it does take a little bit of time to come back to us. Hopefully that should start working in a minute. So the other thing with Manus as well is it takes a long time too. If you look at the demos on the website for Manus, there's some really cool and impressive stuff here. But like, for example, if you click on this, the speed at which this is generated is not the same as the actual speed inside here, right? So for example, you can see if we check Manus working, I actually gave it this prompt 2 hours ago, and it's still creating the prompt, as you can see, right? It's still creating the environment, everything else. So it is quite slow. It is quite slow to respond and that sort of thing. OWL, which is open source, available on GitHub. Then you can see here, we've got the HTML ready to go pretty much instantly. And if we go to test this, so we'll just test it out at liveweave.com. Plug in the HTML code that we got from OWL, like you can see, and we've got this working cost calculator. Then if we do test 100, 1000, 100, click calculate total cost, is that working? Yeah, so you've got an example right there of the cost calculator you can build. Actually not working, but I'm sure you can go back and forth with OWL in the chat. And that's basically one way you can use this, right? Now, inside here as well, you can set your environment variables, right? So you can see here, for example, I've plugged in my OpenAI key. You can plug in a Quen key, a DeepSeek key, and also a Google API key, right? So you can get a free API from aistudio.google.com and then use OWL as your AI agent, right? So if you go to aistudio.google.com, go to get API key, like you can see over here, and then create an API key, you can then grab that and plug it into OWL directly over here, right? There's also a search engine ID, chunker ID, Firecore ID. So you can link it to different apps as well. And then you've got the conversation record right here. So you can actually copy this information. You can refresh a record. You can clear it as well. So you can delete previous information inside the conversation. And you can also see your token count over here. And then it's got a few like example prompts that you can use. So for example, like open Google search, summarize GitHub stars, etc. So let's see if that works. We're going to open this up on OWL now. I'm going to click run, and you can see it will be processing. So when you're waiting for this to run, it's going to start processing. Now, the thing that I would say about OWL is it was a little bit technical to set up, because obviously you're using Terminal, right? If you're using Terminal to set anything up like this, like an AI agent, it's going to be nowhere near as easy as like Manus, where Manus, you just go off, you type in whatever you want, and then you come back 30 minutes later and it's usually done, right? So that's the biggest difference here. And also it's quite slow. So this is not fast at all. I'm trying to find the history right here. Yes, it's got the completion tokens. I'm just going to refresh this because it doesn't seem to be working. Let's see what we got here. All right, so it's doing the instructions. So like you can see, then it's doing the Google search. So you can see here it's like search Google, searching for that step by step. And then it's using that GitHub to start running this. By the way, if you want, I was waiting for that to load. If you want like all the instructions on how to set OWL up directly inside your terminal, then it is completely free, right? And it's not a bad alternative to Manus. It's probably not going to do things at the same level, but it's not bad at all. So if you want to get access to that, just go to the SEO section over here. And this is my first time using it as well. I'm probably not an expert at this, but I can compare the models based on what's working for me and the easy use and everything else. So if we go over to the AI Profit Boardroom, and then if you go into the SEO section, you'll see how to set up each of these AI agents, right? So there's a whole section on OWL setup and how to do that, and you can just follow the instructions right there. But yeah, it's completely free. It's available on GitHub, and you can see it's running the request right here. So you've got, for example, like a user agent, assistant agent. What else do we have up here? Yeah, so it's doing some Google searches, and it's running through each now. It does say I'm unable to directly access the GitHub repository to retrieve the stars. So not a great start there. It can code basic stuff, but from what I can see, it's not working that well compared to something like, I'll show you Open Manus in a minute. I'll show you how that works. The UI is much better than Open Manus. Open Manus doesn't even have a UI, so you just use it directly inside the terminal. But you're always going to stick with Manus, aren't you? Manus doesn't require any code, no terminal setup. It connects to the internet. It runs tasks without any problems. But the biggest problem with Manus, of course, is that there are token limits and you can't use it as much as you want to. Pros and cons. All right. So that is OWL used. Maybe we'll come on to like a full-blown tutorial later. We'll come on to Convergence now, right? Let's do the same prompt inside Convergence. And we're going to say, open Google search, summarize the GitHub stars, fault counts, etc. of Camel's AI Camel framework. Write the numbers into a Python file using the plot package, save it locally and run the generated file. Now, I don't think it's going to do those bits right there, to be honest with you. So I'm just going to delete that part of the prompt. But I'll say create a HTML, because obviously it doesn't have local access to your computer. So I'm going to say do this and then create a HTML code with a landing page explainer of OWL, right? And we'll just summarize that into basically a website. So we're going to run that now. We'll see what happens next. So Convergence AI is really good because it doesn't require terminal setup. I would actually say the UI is nicer on Convergence AI than Manus as well. And it also has browser use. So you can see here, it clearly connects to the internet pretty quickly. It can research GitHub repositories. It can actually read the page as well. And then you understand exactly what's going on. If you compare the UI of this versus the UI of OWL, there's a huge difference, right? Like it's not even comparable. Let's pull these up. I'll show you what I mean. So you got Convergence AI over here. All right, that can clearly search the web, doesn't have any problems, does exactly what you want it to do first time round. It's pretty nice. Browses the web, scrolls through everything, and this is free. the difference as well with ours, like if you plug in an API key, depending on which one you're using, it's going to cost you money, right? So for example, if you're using something like AI to generate the responses, then that's going to cost you money with OWL, right? So the setup of OWL is free, like the tool itself is free, but it's going to cost you money on the API. If you want to use it for free completely, then you just grab a free API key at aistudio.google.com. If you're using Convergence, Convergence actually does its magic perfectly first time round, and it does it using free APIs, right? It's even set up the environment for you. So this is not your actual laptop. This is just like a virtual environment where it's going off into the web and it's searching stuff on Google. And also you can skip through the steps so you can see what happened. Very similar to Manus in that way. So you see here on Manus, for example, if we open up an example that actually worked, you can see all the steps and what it did previously. Same on Convergence, like you can see the previous steps it's made, how it works, etc. And then also this has worked really nicely. So it says, I've gathered the GitHub statistics for Camel AI's Camel framework. Here's what it's done. Let's just open this up and we'll see how many stars it actually has. So 5.8K, 5K. What's that saying? That's because let's open this up, see what we got here. 10.3K, 1K. Yeah, that matches perfectly with what this was trying to find. And then we've got the HTML snippet with a landing page explainer, right? So you can actually download that file as well, which is pretty cool. So this has the ability to create files for you. We can download that, like you can see. And then also what we can do is we can just run that on Liveweave too. So if we go to liveweave.com and we'll plug in the HTML right there. Obviously the HTML is not that nice. Yeah, you can definitely give better prompting instructions in terms of making that a nicer landing page, but it does the job. So it's created like a nice little summary using the GitHub repository. I should have improved the prompt, so that's probably my fault in terms of getting better outputs from this, but it does the job perfectly. So if you compare the quality of this, I mean, in terms of rankings and ratings, honestly, like this is probably better than Manus in many ways because it's faster, it does the job quicker, it's available to everyone, it's completely free, and there's no limit on the number of responses. So right now, I'd say that Convergence AI is actually doing a better job than Manus in this respect. It can do things perfectly. It can do things in the same way as Manus, but it's faster. It doesn't cost you any tokens, and you can get it done straight away, right? You don't need to set up terminal or anything like that. OWL, I would say, is coming in last right now from what I can see. So let's try this one and see if it works, all right? I'm going to say search the web, and then we'll do the same prompt here. And we'll just give it one more chance. So let's see what we get back here. Wait for that to load. For the average Jack Johnson on the street who's barely used ChatGPT, they're just never going to be able to understand this, right? If they looked at this, they looked at terminal, it's just going to be totally impractical. Whereas something like Convergence AI, did that just open up Chromium? Ah, yeah, look at that. Yeah, so it's doing browser use. You can see it's actually looking at the page and using vision to check out the page. So that's quite useful. If you compare that versus the responses from Convergence AI, which one is more user-friendly? Of course, it's Convergence AI. So let's see what we get back in a second. It's still processing for now. I like the fact that it opened the landing page and then it closed Chromium. And obviously, you know, when it's using Chromium as well to open up a separate tab, it's in a safer environment, right? So it's not like directly inside your Chrome browser. It's not got all your logins or anything like that. Like it's a little bit safer than just hosting that directly locally. And bear in mind as well, like when you're using Convergence AI, there's no API to plug in here. So you don't need to plug in your API key. There's no technical setup. Whereas Gradio, of course, like that's going to cost a bit of money on the API key, or at least some technical expertise on how to get an API key. Some people actually struggle with getting API keys in general. But this seems to be working now. Like before, it didn't seem to work at all. But let's see what we get back here. So we plugged that in, we've asked it to do, and we asked for a HTML code with a landing page explainer. So that's part of the process. But I can't see any HTML code directly in there. So it's used my tokens. Like you can see, it's rinsed my tokens. But there's no output from that, right? There's no code or anything like that. And then it's got some bugs. Like, for example, it says, it seems there might be a misunderstanding. As an assistant, I'm here to help you and implement the enhancements, blah, blah, blah. But it's not done the job we want, all right? So fair play to Alpha releasing something that's open source. Like, I respect them for that. It's cool that they've done it on GitHub. But if you compare the ease of use and the outputs from Convergence versus OWL, it's just night and day, isn't it? It's night and day. All right, so the one that we haven't really covered so far is Open Manus. So let's open up Open Manus. We've got it ready to go right here. All right. So what we're going to do is we're just going to grab the setup instructions from the AI Profit Boardroom. So if you want to get those setup instructions inside the SAP section of the AI Profit Boardroom, and then I'm just going to get this set up. Now, one thing I want you to know is, like, when you're setting up Claude on this, I had to install loads of dependencies, right? So if you want to use your Claude API inside Open Manus, there's a lot of work to be done there, sunshine. I tell you that for free. So let's wait for this to load. All right, so it says enter your prompt. I'm going to zoom in for the peeps at home so you can check this out. All right, so this is open. This is what it looks like. There's no real UI, but let's do the same prompt. So we're going to take that prompt from here, and we'll say Open Manus, do your magic. So you can see it's completing the Google search right here, and it's opened up computer use browser use there, right? So you can see it's opened up a tab. It's looking through the page. Let's see what it does next. The other thing with Open Manus is, like, you don't really know what's going on, if that makes sense. So I don't know what's happening here. Like, I get the feel for it. I kind of have a feel for, okay, it's moving in the right direction, but I have no idea if it's doing the task successfully or not, because it's all numbers and it's all like tool call and execute tool and activating browser use and everything else, right? So when I'm testing this out, it's a little bit confusing to figure out, okay, what's going on, but you can see it using the Chromium in the background there. So scroll down the page, seems to be refreshing stuff. You can see this page is refreshing in the background here as well. And you can see it's also doing some Google searches as well. So it's definitely got further than OWL. It's done a better job than OWL for sure. It's struggling a bit on doing some research, but it seems really smooth in terms of using the browser use, to be fair. So even whilst we've got the terminal running right here, in the background, you can see the browser use working perfectly. You can see it's using Google pretty nicely there as well. So let me pull this up. This is a terminal. This is the browser use from the AI. But again, I think, if you compare these, really, you got to think Convergence AI is still winning by a long way. Convergence AI doesn't get stuck. Again, you don't need any technical setup. UI is better. So the best so far in terms of performance is Convergence. So let's see what we get back. It's on step 29 out of 30 now, so it's been running for a few minutes. The other thing as well I got to say here, peeps, is if I have to sit here that long for this, I'd be better off just doing it myself. Like, it's counterproductive at this point. So again, like, I respect Open Manus for doing something that's open source and that's useful. This is using Claude 3.7 Sonnet, but it's just nowhere near on the same level as Manus AI, right? The stuff you can create with Manus AI, I haven't even given this like a complicated task and it's failed on it, right? There's no output from this. It's not that useful. We'll do another one now. So I'm going to say, okay, create a beautiful cost calculator tool and open it up. All right, so let's see what we get back now. Doesn't seem to have worked out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to press Control and C to shut it down. And then we'll just run that again. So let me just run that again with Python space main.py if you need to do that. All right, so just Command and C to close it, and then type in Python space main.py to run this again. And from here, we'll try that again. So I'll say code an SEO cost calculator. Doing something, we're just not sure what it is. So some people say they feel like a Linux dev looking at terminal all the time. I would agree with you. It's not the nicest to look at. This seems to be stuck as well, but let's see what we get back in a second. So I'm going to leave that running in the background just to come back to Manus as well. This is the difference, right? So everyone says, oh, you can use Open Manus or you can use Manus just like a Claude wrapper. But look at the difference here. There's such a huge difference in what you get from versus what you get from OpenAI. So now it's said, let's start by creating a HTML file with CSS and JavaScript for the calculator. It's beginning to start doing that. It's running it, but it's quite slow. Let's come back to now. We'll see where we're up to on that AI writer that we're creating. So it's using the terminal, it's deploying everything. Perfect. All right. So if you want to create really complex stuff, I think Manus is still the best one. If you want to automate basic admin tasks, then Convergence AI does a good job. What's this doing now? Open Manus is still quite slow. Even a basic task like this as well, if you went straight into Claude, it would just do it magically. I'll show you an example, right? So this is the other thing, right? So if you want to create, for example, an AI content writer, or you want to create a website. So for example, if you come onto this site over here, we actually created this website using Manus AI, right? Pretty complex tasks. It's embedded in a video, created a really nice sort of landing page right here. Looks quite nice. So I don't think that OWL or anything like that is going to be good enough to do that, right? This is the output you get back from Open Manus, which is not bad. It's not bad. But look at the difference in the UI between these two. So you got the SEO cost calculator from Open Manus over here, and then you got the designed landing page from Manus AI here, right? Difference in coding ability is off the charts. So you can see the biggest difference here. The tool does work, to be fair to it, but the UI is not that nice. All right, so I'm going to leave that running in the background. In the meantime, I'm going to switch over to Claude Code now. So I'm going to say here, research student Goldie and his AI profit boardroom, then link to this, create this website, etc. And we're doing a web fetch, and we'll see if this can code something better. So this is a free tool from Claude as well. It's kind of like an AI agent you can run in terminal, but it's a lot more user-friendly. So you can see here how there's not like loads of crazy code and stuff. And it tends to be a lot more responsive. Plus, it's really easy to get the hang of. I've got some instructions on how to set this up inside the AI profit boardroom, but essentially, I just started using it this morning properly, and it was really easy to set up and just get this working. So let's see what we get back in a second. We've finished the SEO cost calculator from Open Manus. Not bad at all. It works. It's just the UI is not that great. And now we've got this working right now with Claude. So you can see it coding. It says ruminating right here, and you can see it loading. And then it's got a timer as well, so you can see how long it's been running. If you just compare side by side the UI of Open Manus versus Claude Code, the difference is huge. Right? Now let's go over to Convergence AI. We'll do another test. We'll give it exactly the same prompt that we gave to Claude Code. And we'll wait for that to load. Claude Code has taken its time there. So again, like Convergence AI just goes off, starts researching, starts Googling, finds exactly what we want straight off the bat. Not messing around today. And then it's just doing all the research. So it actually navigated to that page that Manus AI created, like you can see. And at least you know what's going on here. So at least you're in the loop. Whereas with Claude, you're not really sure what's going on. But here you've got the code back from Claude. So let's open this up. It says you want to make an edit. I'm going to say just open it up. So now it's opening up the page. Look at that from Claude Code. Back in the game. Damn, that is pretty nice, to be fair. So this is the website that we got back from Claude Code. Fair play to it. It looks pretty nice. That was super easy to do. We didn't have to set up too much. The gradients are nice on the website. It's clean. Honestly, and it's embedded the URL. So you can see here it's embedded the VSL inside the content, and it's linked directly to school as well. That's done a great job, isn't it? Honestly, I think out of the other cool thing here is as well, yeah, it's done a great job there with no messing around. That's what I like. Not bad at all. I don't like the fact that it's just made up a bunch of random testimonials, like it's trying to get me in trouble here. But everything else is pretty much perfect. Let's check if the navigation works. So features, success stories, about Julian, FAQ. Yeah, this is beautiful, my friends. All right, so here's my verdict. Here's what I'm going to tell you, because this is taking absolutely ages. So if you want a sort of admin executive assistant that can just go off and do like research tasks completely for free, then honestly, I'm going to say that Convergence AI it might be better than Manus simply because it's available right now. It's completely free to do stuff like this. is super fast and there's no token limits, right? Now, if you want to code something, I would recommend as an AI agent, Claude Code. I think that's right up there with Manus in terms of the design, the UI. You can open up the file, we can code it locally, and that was super easy, right? And this is a free tool as well to use. And the outputs are super nice, like you can see right here. Like, looks pretty nice, to be fair. Then I would put Open Manus simply because it works, but it's messy. I don't like setting up the terminal. It takes absolutely ages to figure out, and sometimes it breaks. And then coming in last, but fair play to them for what they're doing. I think they're going in the right direction. It's just, it's not that impressive, and that is out, right? And it's just not on the same level as Manus from what I can see so far. So that's my review of each, and let me know what you think. But if it was me, yeah, I'm going to stick with Convergence AI for admin tasks and Claude for coding tasks until Manus AI is available for everyone. Honestly, like, I think Manus is the boss. It's created some awesome stuff. Let's see what it creates with this. So we ask it to create this. It takes absolutely ages. That's the only problem with Manus. So we've got this runner game right here. Should be getting deployed. Even like the quality of games you can build with Manus is pretty cool. So let me show you this, for example. Manus just went off and coded this free.js game, and we can just go around inside the forest or whatever. So you have my verdict. I've shown you how to compare them. If you want to get the setup instructions for each, feel free to get that inside the AI Profit boardroom. This comes with all of my best SOPs, tutorials, tips, templates, etc. on exactly how to use all of these tools. And also, if you ever get stuck, you can ask the community. There's 465 members there, all dedicated to making money and scaling with AI. And if you want to jump on weekly Q&A calls, you can as well. So feel free to get that link in the comments and description. You now know what are the best free AI alternatives to Manus. Convergence AI coming in first, Claude coming in joint first for coding, and then Open Manus, and then after that out. So thanks so much for watching. And if you want to get a free one-to-one SEO strategy session, feel free to get that. Link in the comments and description. We'll show you how we take websites from 0 to 145,000 visits a month and generate hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales on autopilot without Facebook or Google ads.